What's up, everybody? In my last video, I had a very controversial take that buying as early in life as possible will help you way more in the long run versus renting in most cases. And a lot of people disagreed with me. They said, "No, right, you tripping." And maybe I was. So today we're going to look at just that. We're going to look at, was I lucky as someone who bought a home at 23? Was I just lucky to end up in this situation? We're going to break it down. But first, I got to tell you about, my journey in buying this home from 2018 when I bought this property to 2025 today. Let's get it. So I graduated at the end of 2017 as a civil engineer from Old Dominion University, and I immediately decided as soon as 2018 hit and that I was able to start my career working as a structural engineer at a shipyard that I wanted to buy my first home and get out of renting. And already I could tell you this wasn't the strongest decision or the smartest decision because I decided this within 2 months of my lease ending that I wanted to do this, which kind of forced me to make a quicker decision in what kind of home I wanted to buy and what actual property I was going to put an offer in on. But luckily for me, I was able to find a pretty nice property in May of 2018 and was able to move into my house fully in June of 2018 on an FHA loan. And just to break down a couple of details about the house, it was a new construction, 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,400 square feet. That was in about a middle cost of living area of Hampton Roads, Virginia, if you're familiar with that area. And FHA is basically a first-time home buyer program, which allows people who are looking to buy their first property secure a home without having to accumulate 20% down payment that's required with a conventional loan. And instead, they would only need 3.5% down on that home to be able to secure it. So there's a couple of requirements to be able to secure an FHA loan in the first place. First, you definitely have to be intending to occupy the property as the resident of the property, but also you need to hit, I believe, a minimum credit score of about 600. You need your debt to income ratio to be below 43%. You have to put 3.5% down payment down versus 20% with a conventional. And also you have to pay mortgage insurance, which I believe is about 1.5% or something in that range on your mortgage. And I went a step further. I was able to secure my FHA loan without putting 3.5% down by securing a second mortgage that covered the 3.5%. And the details of the FHA loan I was able to secure was the total was about $184,000 for the property with the $6,000 on the second mortgage down payment as well. And both of those were secured at about 5% interest rate, which brought my total mortgage on the home to about $1,400 monthly. And yes, to be honest, I was stretching myself out financially a little bit at that time by securing this mortgage because I was just an entry-level engineer at that time, making only $65,000 in a year. So with the $14,000 mortgage, along with other bills that I had, I didn't have too much left over in discretionary spending. But when I first bought the house, was honestly the worst and the toughest it had ever been to pay for the home, as over time, my income continued to grow and grow. And my mortgage payment over time became a smaller and smaller amount of my total budget. But then the pandemic hit. And you already know around that time, interest rates became super, super low. And I was able to refinance my mortgage into a 2.75% interest rate, bringing my mortgage down to about $1,200 monthly at the time. So now we fast forward to 2025, where I was able to increase my income to well over 6 figures, as well as the market increasing and home prices, renting and mortgage wise in the area are well over $2,000 for equivalent property. This is a great situation currently. But back to the question at hand. Was I lucky or was I smart? So for this, let's look at the couple factors that could be luck in this situation. So the things that can be luck in this situation, I would say, is the pandemic. For one, no one can anticipate a pandemic and no one can anticipate an opportunity that will present itself where interest rates will be reduced significantly and I was able to refinance to this low of an amount. And then it's also worth noting that the pandemic increased housing prices significantly between the start of the pandemic to now, and it has allowed me to generate over $100,000 in equity on the property. Let's take these things out of the scenario and look at where I would be if these things didn't happen. So yes, if the pandemic didn't happen, it probably wouldn't be the same opportunity to refinance my mortgage to as low of an amount as it is, a 2.75%. But honestly, at that time, I had a terrible credit score when I first secured my mortgage and ended up on the higher end of mortgage rates at a 5%. If the pandemic didn't happen, I would still say I would safely be able to at least refinance my mortgage until 4%, which would still save me a significant amount of money if I was to choose to go that route. But we can't even ignore that I refinance at all. Like, the opportunity never presented itself to refinance. Even if I didn't do that, I would still be sitting here with about a $1,450 monthly payment on my mortgage if you include like the increase in property taxes and insurance from that time. And it's also worth noting that the pandemic led to the increase of insurance costs as well. But that's besides the point. So if I was paying about a $1,450 mortgage at this time in my life in 2025, I would still be paying significantly below the market in the area, which if the pandemic didn't happen, it would still be about $1,800, $2,000 mortgage and rental prices in the area. So I would still be paying below market prices for my mortgage. So another factor you can look into is just the increase in value of my home. And you could say, hey, you just was lucky enough to be in an area that your property had increased. But I can dispel this quickly just by showing you how home prices throughout the entire world has continued to increase over the years, no matter what the situation is, with only, I believe, like the housing bubble causing housing prices to significantly decrease for a short period of time, but then eventually rise back up. And that's why you have the phrase now that it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. So no matter what happened, whether the pandemic didn't happen or I was in an area that home prices didn't appraise nearly as much, my home price would have still increased from where it was in 2018 to where it is today. So I would automatically still be in a better position now than I was then. There's one factor that I didn't touch on that may actually be luck, however. I haven't mentioned the fact that I haven't really encountered any major expenses that I had to put in on my home. In the 6 years that I've been living here, I haven't had a major roofing issue, a major HVAC issue, a major foundational issue or whatnot. The biggest expense that I had was a wind event that blew a lot of the siding off my house that I had to get that repaired. That was about a couple $100 to be able to get that reinstalled. But outside of that, I haven't had any major housing expenses that I see a lot of people complain or encounter throughout their time homeowning. And I think that's a product of the route that I went. But in my opinion, I would attribute that more so to strategy, more so than the luck in choosing your home. And that goes even if you were not buying a new construction, the more time and effort you put into making sure you're finding the right property that won't have these issues, the less likely it is that you'll encounter these big housing expenses later on in your home owning journey. So honestly, I would think that no matter what had happened, I think the way I went about the situation was a great financial strategy and was a great financial decision in choosing to buy my home, despite the lucky factors that did play into it. However, there admittedly was always factors of luck into it. Not even just the pandemic happened, but just in the fact that I had such a short home buying process of 2 months and I just stumbled into a house and was like, yup, this is the one. That could have went horribly wrong. I could have got into a bad deal just for the sake of rushing. That's why I encourage anyone who is looking for a home is just take your sweet and precious time to make sure you're finding a home that you want, so that you want to encounter a problem later on and you just have buyer's remorse on buying that property. And here's a couple quick tips. If you are a first time home buyer watching this video, here's what I recommend. First, make sure you get your finances in order. Make sure you don't got no crazy expenses or no crazy problems that'll hit you, and catch up with you when you don't need them to the most. Make sure you go out and get pre-approved for your mortgage, so you know exactly how much you can afford and limit yourself accordingly. And even go a step further to see how much buying a certain home would affect you in all your other finances in your life. 3, I would say definitely find a good real estate agent, because there's some real estate agents that are good in certain things and some real estate agents that are good in other things. And some real estate agents just not good in many things. They just want your money. So make sure you vet your real estate agent and make sure that they have your best interest at heart, so that you can end up in the best financial decision, because this is the biggest financial decision in your life. 4, definitely be patient. Don't rush it. Don't be like me. Don't have a 2-month home buying process. I'm currently looking to buy my second property, and me and my wife have been looking at homes for well over a year now, and we're still not ready to pull the trigger. So take your time. It's no rush. Start early so that you can finish strong. 5, do not overpay for a house. There's a million houses out here on the market. Just because one goes that might be the perfect home for you, don't sit up here and just go all out. Don't overpay for this property, because I promise you, in a month, in 2 months, shoot, in 2 weeks, another property that you're going to be like, yo, this is the one, is going to come up. So just wait and be patient. Don't overpay. And lastly, be prepared to make repairs. Like I said, think about the bad luck of it. Think about the worst case scenario. And you take that worst case scenario into factor. When it does happen, like you need to make a major house repair, it'll be easy. Like, oh yeah, I figured this might be a problem. So boom. So I would recommend just always being ready to handle the unfortunate problems that happen with home buying. And I think you're going to be good. So yeah, I'm going to go on the record of saying that, the benefits that I've got from being a home buyer were not luck at all. Because even though I was young, unknowledgeable, inexperienced in this home buying journey, even I was able to profit significantly from my home buying journey. So there's no reason to say that people who have more knowledge and more insight on these things and educate themselves more can't have the same experience or even greater experience. But for those who are still skeptical, I would just give this piece of advice. Move in your home buying journey if you were to choose to pursue it, looking at every possible scenario that could possibly go wrong. And then if you factor in every situation that can go wrong and take a really conservative approach to home buying, and you still can see the numbers coming out on the top in the long run, there's still no reason why you shouldn't buy a home. Like I said, from the early jump, there may be a little buyer's remorse from the start, but in the long run, it's going to look like a great financial decision, in my opinion, at least. And that's all I have. So what are your thoughts? Let me know if I was lucky. Cause y'all gonna tell me anyway. And while you're at it, let me know if you had any lucky breaks when you were buying your home, or any bad luck breaks when you were buying your home. Let me know y'all experiences just with home buying in general. I look forward to reading all the comments. But if you want more, here's a video on me just breaking down the home buying mistakes that I had as a first time home buyer, just to give you some insights on what not to do. Peace.